and David Muir see a big gender gap in that state.
Wow, let's dive into these demographics, George, because this is really fascinating in Ohio, which of course was a must. Women voters, 47% men. But look when we break it out. Who did they vote for? Look at the men. 54% with Donald Trump, 39% with Clinton. That's 15 points right there, the gap there. And then look at women. She carries women, but only by 9 points. And one more thing I wanted to show you is when you do the education breakdown, the voters without college degrees and trying to level the playing field.
And I'm trying to look at the key selection. It is so scrambled, but is Kent, Eaton County, and this, let's go out to Grand Rapids. Republican vote to come in from Greenwich, still to come. You can see Trump. I'm losing Michigan. It's
either way, Cecilia Vega, I wonder, President Obama went to Detroit in the final days.
People knew a lot about this race. It's incredible to go around the country and hear everybody talking about it, everybody engaged over again. And those sort of
now, when you've got a majority of Americans
on that experimental treatment.
I think that's right, and you and I sit across the finish. And I do think Hillary Clinton, and again, that she attempted, and she may have not quite succeeded.
Voting alike, New Mexico also coming in for Hillary Clinton, building up her bare minimum.
Right now in Donald Trump's direction. This is going to be a long time.
Okay, I want to go, John, why don't you pull up Wisconsin? In the meantime, let me go to Clayton.
Wisconsin is quite a story. 48%, almost half of the point lead over Hillary Clinton. I've got to drill down and see where the outstanding vote is. But with
primaries,
this is a state he got trounced in the primaries because the entire Wisconsin led a jihad against Donald Trump every day. Got trounced, and then look. I don't know if he's going to win Wisconsin, but it is unbelievable that at this point he looks to be in the hunt.
Tom Yamas.
Very critical moment. He's just won Ohio. My Republican sources who have won.
And this is going to be very close, Bill Kristol, but that was a single public poll. There might have been one statistics, but unemployment is down. There's been economic growth for the last several quarters. You could see consumer confidence.
% in the state of Michigan.
David Curley, what's the dramatic election night? It's been an unusual campaign, and tonight everything's so close, and Donald Trump doing so well, has to win. Those are the states that he has to win. But then he's got his choice. Really a reversal of what we've seen. I'm going to take that to the chief strategist. John Carl, you've been following it all night long. Let's start with that state of Florida.
It looks like he's running the table on these remaining states. Florida is in. Donald Trump has the real story made west, the states of Michigan, where he's.
And of course, so much for a message with
and state after state.
Due to Jeb, far too long. Nevada, that is still out there. She has to win the state of Minnesota, that is still out there. She has to win the state of Wisconsin, the state of Michigan, the state of Pennsylvania, and the state of New Hampshire.
Yeah, she's got to now run the table. And we have a very narrow path for Donald Trump, but for Hillary Clinton.
Can I just point out one key number that's coming in, and this is emerging as the storyline of the night out of the national exit polls. Trump's margin among non-college voters is the highest going back, 30 years. Look at this. 39-point gap between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton when it comes to non-college whites. That's better than Ronald Reagan did in 1984.
To Donald Trump. Let's pull up, see what we showed.
The 2nd congressional district, if he was 69.
Okay, now let's put it back and let's try.
That line so close. And if she wins the popular vote, if he wins the Electoral College, then you'll have everybody doubting everything.
And the Comey letter, there are going to be a huge body of Clinton voters. And then if Trump was to, he's going to blame the Republican establishment. He's going to blame the media. So this is aftermath.
If we take a look at the exit polls right now, among folks who say they're voting for Donald Trump, a majority nationwide say that they are not at all.
Stephanie, I see the look on your face, and I'm wondering if James Comey blaming the media.
Well, James Comey, absolutely, that anybody predicted, because it raised character. There are a lot of fingers to point here that even leads us to a close race like this.
You hear the chime. We have another state to project right now. It's the state of Oregon. Here right now, because Matt was talking about how each side is going to feel unhappy. How if they lose.
Trending ahead in both. Trump surprised a lot of us in the primaries time and time again. And he said it was 2-1. Hillary happened. So Trump will have surprised again, and it will be an amazing moment. of this kind when people went in on election day thinking it was somewhere between 2 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1.
Maybe Dewey defeats Truman, but that was a time election. Alex Castellanos.
I think the big story, though, here, win or flags.
Just one footnote, if I could. I mean, what's amazing is just President Obama's approval rating in some of these. President Obama, who are voting for,
is fearful and really is striking terror.
Now, so John, I want to come back.
We have now 96% reporting made by almost 30% of the vote. In other words, a margin bigger.
Interesting about that. That means that the Clinton people hit their targets. They said if they won Miami-Dade by about 25%.
Underscore this number, George. Take a look at this. When you look at non-college whites in this country, how they voted, it's a 39-point gap. 28% went for Hillary Clinton, 67% went for Donald Trump. And George, how many times did Kellyanne Conway, in talking to both of us, tell us there's going to be a shadow Trump vote? And that shadow Trump vote is non-college whites here in America. I remember being out in the trail with him on Labor Day, and Donald Trump kept saying to me, look at the size of the crowds out here at this county fair. Look outside the door. Look at the people lined up down the street. He said the same thing to Tom Yamas over and over again. Donald Trump was confident that what he was feeling and sensing in those crowds was something that people were not registering in these polls.
Let's go back.
I think there's one other thing we should, and that is something that we've never had a woman president, to that kind of change. And the fact that we've, that Trump is running against a woman.
The vote is still coming in. What do we see?
49%, 40 Democrats out in Grand Rapids, Kent, in Michigan.
Well, I would just add about Michigan. I think obviously, Wayne County, and John just brought it up.
Yeah, I just brought up Macomb.
Is
a bit more about Macomb County because it's the Republican Party. They were called the Reagan Democrats up in Macomb County. Bill Clinton won them back.
Democrats. It looks like the rest of the mitten, as we say. The rest of the mitten, he's running up.
Caution check on this. I'm just looking at my own, a little particularly Democratic to me.
What are we seeing in Wisconsin, John?
We're seeing 60th commanding lead, a 3% lead. So,
and I'm thinking, as I was looking at Amy Robach's live shot inside his end to the polls.
Trump has many, many more because he's got a fairly healthy lead there right now. 3 points
in Wisconsin. Yes, he does. And a place where the median income is $50,000. It's a state that's been Democratic, but now suddenly is the Trump Democrat.
And Matthew Dowd, when you look at the margin, that would tell you something about what could happen in these other states as well.
Who wins Wisconsin? Either one of them, he wins.
Terry Moran, you were talking about Brexit.
Well, it is deja vu. There's no question about it. The sense of all the polls and all the society, and the people who voted for Brexit were the people who were not in the higher classes for sure. And they came out and they socked the establishment right in the face. And it does feel like that's what's happening because of Donald Trump. And I just want to take a step back here. This is an astonishing personal triumph. As Tom just pointed out, this was not a campaign by any normal sense. This was a personal endeavor. And one thing struck me while these results were coming in, a quote from his sister, Marianne Trump Berry, who's a judge on the New York State Supreme Court. She said, "I knew better even as a child than to even attempt to compete with Donald because he always wins."
Martha Raddatz, I wonder if Vladimir Putin has
been reduced to rubble. Let's remember. He asked for a ban on Muslims. He said they shouldn't tell people what's happening. Really didn't care.
White blue wall that everyone. This always happens in politics. Looks like it's totally crumbling.
That Wisconsin Senate race is a shocker. That was one on the top, but a very good day for Republicans in this House. That's far less than they thought they were going to lose.
Let's dig into Wisconsin a little bit more. What are you seeing out of Madison County in Wisconsin?
I think we're seeing has developed is that voters would rather go
shake out, but to be completely
opposite of Hillary Clinton, not on the victory front, on the preparing for the what comes next front. I'm in your hands right now, but the entire Republican Party.
Let's take a look.
It was his first trip to Iowa as a potential presidential candidate, but nobody thought he was going to run. I don't think he thought he was going to campaign B. This is 2013, and he said, "Well, I think it would be make America great again."
So you broke the story.
And exactly, but exactly, it's exactly my point. No, but also something happened with Hillary Clinton, which is, for all the talk of when they go low, we go high, the Hillary Clinton campaign at the end was entirely a negative campaign. It was Donald Trump is unfit for office. He is temperamentally unfit. He is unprepared. Not only that, he is likely to fly off the handle and maybe even cause a nuclear war. That was literally the argument that they were making in the final days.
She talked about it. Go ahead. You got a projection there.
We have a projection. It is the state of Georgia. David Muir, he is closing in.
He certainly is, George. And look at this. This is really fascinating. A key question that we ask every 4 years, the track of this country. And if you think it's on the wrong track, Look at this. 93% who say wrong track went with Trump. 32% who did not believe wrong track went with Hillary. And look at this. Non-college white men. This is even larger than the number I had for you before. This is 49 points. By 49 points, Donald Trump won non-college white men in this country. That's a record set. The last one since 1980 was 11-point gap.
Yeah, let me go back to Pennsylvania and Ohio in those rural.
Could have one of the biggest upsets ever in American history coming up.
It's 100 years. Donald Trump, not favored to win against 16 opponents, including the Republican establishment, basically either side. And I think we're going to look back at this. It's more so than any other election, presidential election, that we years.
And Joe Arpaio has lost.
Here on the East Coast, and Donald Trump is racking up the victories. He now has 244 electoral votes.
Who's been covering Donald Trump from the start? John Santucci. This is happening. Trump Tower, I'm told, is exploding.
And you now have 64% of the vote in.
About a 50.
I just want to go back to what we were saying earlier this evening about what the appeal of Donald Trump was. They rejected who promises them, even if he can't deliver on those promises.
There's no question, and let's just dive in. Look at this, U.S. wrong track, and we saw that earlier. You know, if you think it's on the wrong track, you go with Donald Trump. This is interesting too. Supreme Court. If you thought Supreme Court appointments were important, you went with Donald Trump. And to get back to what Tom Yamas was saying, you know, he said he went with labels. Lying Ted and low energy Jeb. I just wonder how much of all of these big Republican establishment names, like the Bush family saying they would not vote for Donald Trump, and a number of others, John Kasich in Ohio, how much that also fueled these voters who felt left behind in rural America. I would have to imagine a lot of these voters said, you know what, I don't care what the establishment's going to do. I found my man.
House Correspondents' Dinner. What was it for Donald Trump? This is a repudiation.
Apparently, a lot of people.
Not only that, but Donald Trump came to this campaign. He might not have had a traditional campaign by any stretch, but he came to this campaign with a skill set. He was a television performer. He had The Apprentice. He had other ventures. This was something that he brought that no one really could match. None of those establishment Republicans during those debates across from you and me, Martha. You know, Donald Trump was the best performer on that stage, and he knocked them all off the stage.
You know, I was thinking, George, about trying to reflect on when is the last time in our history that we've had a moment like this that somebody like Donald Trump showed up. And the closest I can get is Andrew Jackson, which was 1828.
Back at the States,
of Barack Obama's win in 2008.
Thought Hillary Clinton couldn't lose.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything in my life, he says, has never been as wrong as anything. I think that is.
He's not alone.
He's not.
Let's go to New Hampshire.
Let's go to New Hampshire. This is another one of Michigan. There's not a lot mine in the state of Wisconsin.
We haven't checked in on Minnesota in a while. What's happening in Minnesota and Nevada?
Minnesota, Hillary Clinton.
Pennsylvania?
And Pennsylvania, about 8,000 votes.
So he's ahead in Pennsylvania, ahead in Michigan. Yeah.
It's looking.
The international shockwaves have already started.
Maybe one or two Hillary Clinton, Pennsylvania. People have moved out. They've given up. They don't have a president into a lot of military in the last couple of days. Kind of a split there. There is a split. And there are, I was in the state.
Trump has a solid lead with about 2/3 of the vote.
Has ever done. They've either had military experience or
generals and elected officials become Tom Yamas quickly. Be the most stunning night in American political history. Minutes after midnight here on the East Coast, and Donald Trump is coming up on victory. It is not done yet, but he has 244 electoral votes to 200 campaign from the start. All through the final weekend, they were exuberant. They were exuding confidence. We'll see. We still have a lot of states out there. David Muir, and it picks up on the point of how personal a victory is for Donald Trump. A lot of his supporters voting for him, even though they disagree with him on big issues.
Yeah, it's a stunning thing. It sort of flies in the face of the findings so far on this election night. But look at this. A key question we always ask: which candidate is qualified to be president? The majority of Americans say only Hillary Clinton. There, 46%. Look at this. The border wall, one of his key issues, if not the most important issue. 54% of Americans say they oppose any idea of a border wall. And look at this, undocumented immigrants, a chance at legal status. 70% of Americans say they absolutely deserve that chance. Only 25% say they should be deported. But here's what it all boils down to. Look at this. The quality that matters most. 39% of Americans said the candidate who can bring change. And when we laser in on who that went to, 83% of American voters who wanted change went with Donald Trump.
That is the big vote right there. But Alex Ossianos, let me bring that to you right there. I mean,
they send people to Washington with their 5-point plan, and that's where they start. Well, Donald Trump is the 20,000, I'll give you 10. As long as there's a good things in a different direction. But I do want to point out one thing about what happened tonight. Peter Thiel, founder of PayPal, gave a big speech in Washington last week, and I think gave the best what this election was all about. He said, I don't know how high, that's not the big issue. Somebody's got to turn Washington around.
That is the big issue right now. Washington is broken. Someone has to fix it.